Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, we'll be talking to a very successful consultant who says his life is like Forrest Gump. I'll explain next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
I have to tell you, I know a million consultants, and many of them are book smart. They can tell you 1,000 different ways to lead your company, but they've never actually led a company themselves. I have the pleasure of having Mike Hatten in studio today. He's the Growth Facilitator, and you brag that your life is like Forrest Gump, and I say that with a lot of affection because Forrest Gump happened to be in the right place at the right time so many different times in his life that it really changed the trajectory of his life. So, if you will, let's start at the beginning, Mike. How did this start for you?
Well, thank you, Jeff, for having me. Well, it started for me when I got out of high school. I just started, simply started going down a path of people who suggested things I should do. Doors were open for me, and I started at a hospital. Met a radiologist who quickly decided he would want to help me, and he took me under his wing. And the next thing I knew, I was in X-ray school to be an X-ray technologist. Along that path, I met an emergency room physician who decided I should be an emergency medical technician because he had seen my work in the X-ray department with portable X-ray machines and things. So that happened, and I became a paid EMT. And the next thing that happened for me was a state trooper had been in a bad car accident, and someone from headquarters was sent to the hospital to check on him. I struck up a conversation with this lieutenant, and I was asked if I would like to come to walk-on day the next day, and I was hired there. Very proud to do that, the West Virginia State Police. It was a big foundational part of my career.
Wow, I mean, this really is like you're stumbling into these these riches. I also want to ask you about your parents, because I know that they've been role models in your life. Tell us about how you were brought up.
Well, I grew up in West Virginia. My dad was a farmer, grew up on a farm. Very humble beginnings. People would say they were poor. Yes, we were poor, but I never really felt that way because I had everything I needed, and they gave me everything. I learned a lot of lessons from them that I didn't realize were lessons at the time. They were very smart in that, and my dad would always tell me, if someone takes an interest in you, be smart enough to listen, be smart enough to act on it, and that's pretty much helped me my entire career.
When you told a wonderful story before we went on the air about a little girl that changed your life. Yes. Tell us that story.
That was my good friend. Now, you have to understand that when I started school, it was a very small elementary school, and we literally, 1 through 6, walked across the street 7 through 12. I started with 28 people, and most of us finished the 12th grade together, so they're my family. And this one little girl in particular was poor. She was shy. She didn't have a lot of friends. And she asked if she could sit by me. And I said, of course. We sat in the back of the room, but it was very quickly, I was moved to the front of the room because I was that child that needed to be in the front of the room sitting next to the teacher. And I sat by her for 6 years. And we lost touch with each other after she left school. I didn't see her for years. I connected a lot of people for reunions and things. I found a lot of our classmates on Facebook, and I could never find her. I finally got her phone number from a friend of mine who met her brother at a funeral, and I was going to get back in touch with her again, and This is a very hard story for me to tell. I waited, and I waited too long. I found out she passed away before I got to call her, and I've always regretted that. But there's a lesson in that, and I'll always find the gratitude in everything. And the lesson in that is, don't ever wait too long to make the phone call. If you need to make something right, make the phone call. If you need to connect with somebody, make the phone call.
Wow, I think all of us can learn from that. We get these God winks in our life, or voices. I attribute them to God, and you just got to listen to them and don't put it off. Yeah, that's great. I want to pick up your story again. So you became a state trooper, and then you really became a member of the SWAT team.
That's absolutely correct. I don't know, again, sometimes I found myself like Forrest asking why me, but for some reason I was selected after a very short time into my career to be a founding member of a SWAT team. We called it a SPEAR team. It stood for State Police Emergency Action and Rescue, but it was basically a SWAT team. We trained ourselves. We selected where to go be trained, and we wrote our own SOP, and that was really the foundation of me learning team building and things like that. That's also where one of the most important things in my entire career happened to me. I learned about mentors. I knew what mentors were. I heard what mentors could do for you, but this is my first real mentor, and his name was Brigadier Harley Mooney. I'll never forget. He was retired, and he was our superintendent. He sat all of us down that had been selected, and he asked me, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Well, I'd never been asked that question before. I had no idea. And he smiled, and he told me to go away for a week and come back and tell him again. And when I came back, I told him, you know, General, I really enjoy sliding down this rope out of the back of this helicopter, but I'd really want to be in the front of that helicopter. I grew up in the shadow of a tragic plane crash. Marshall University football team crashed very near to where I lived, very near to where I was when it actually happened. And I always wanted to learn why, how that happened, whatever. And I wanted to learn to fly. And so he told me to come back in a week. I came back in a week. He told me that, you know, I checked with Bell Helicopter. I was going to send you, but it's more expensive than I realized. I don't have that kind of money in the budget. But if you're interested in going into the military, I will happily arrange for the testing. It'll be up to you to pass the test. It'll be up to you to do the rest, but I can at least open that door for you. And he structured a leave of absence for me to go do that, spend my time in the military, and come back like I never left. Pay, promotion, sick leave, vacation, everything. So that really hammered into me the important part of mentorship.
And when you became a pilot, that opened other doors. So keep going with the story. What happened after
well,
that?
Yes, it did. I came back and I flew, and our primary mission was executive transport for the governors, 3 different governors that I flew personally. And it enabled me to really start a journey of learning about people. I always connected with people well. I was able to talk to anyone. I never shied away from that, and I always felt like that I could be friends with anyone, from the janitor up through the CEO. I met several politicians along the way there. I met several celebrities. I was behind the scenes a lot, and probably the most important thing that I learned about people is how they behave when no one's watching. And I had some really good experiences with that, fun experiences with that. The serious people you see on television, sometimes you find out they have a sense of humor just like everyone else.
But don't they say that character is who you are when no one else is watching?
I would agree with that. I've heard that, and that is so true. It's been my observation.
Yes. Okay, so your career in aviation leads you to other opportunities.
Yes, it did. I had trained a person to fly helicopters. I was an instructor. He became the director of operations at a large charter outfit, and he gave me the opportunity. He knew my goal was to fly for an airline, major airline. So he gave me the opportunity to come over and fly for him, learn to fly jets. He trained me. I ended up a manager there. That was one of my first management roles. And the rest is history. I got hired by Continental Airlines after that, because of someone I met, someone I connected with, someone I helped their organization grow, and he remembered me, and about 2 years later, he called me and told me to get him my resume because he had gotten Continental Airlines to agree to interview, not hire, but interview every resume he sent.
Well, I gotta applaud you because there's a lot of people who are at the right place at the right time, but you gotta reach out and grab the brass ring. Some people, it's flying in their face and they just won't grab it. Let's talk about Randall Reed because you and I both know him, had the pleasure of working with him. Randall Reed, huge dealer in this country. Tell us the Randall Reed story.
Well, Randall's, first of all, is a great man, and he's become a great friend. I met Randall. I'm very fortunate to have a wife that's an excellent golfer. She played golf professionally. Sickness ended her career, but now she still works in the industry. She teaches, she does clinics, she does instruction for some high-level people. She met Randall's wife and taught Randall's wife golf. She wanted to play golf. Randall began to notice an improvement in his wife, and he approached my wife. They became friends. I met him, we went to dinner, we became friends, and the rest is history.
And you ran a medical device company under Randall Reed, is that right?
That's absolutely correct. Randall bought a medical device company, and I had the time. I had stepped away because of a medical issue that prevented me from flying for a while. And during that time, Randall asked me if I'd be the president of this medical device company, and I ran the company for about 2 years.
And I'm a fan. It's called Inlight Medical. I think we can share that. And when I describe it to people, it's like a light bright marries a heating pad, and light penetrates the skull, it penetrates the body. Would you explain it?
Yes. The company was called Inlight Medical. It's since been sold. It was sold back to the founder, actually, the inventor or the founder of that company. And it does. Light is part of us. It's in every cell. Light helps move nitric oxide that gets dammed up in the cells through the body, and it moves it to the inflammation. And it helps tackle the inflammation and reduce pain. That's the FDA clearance, reduce pain and increase circulation.
And I'll tell this story, I hope you'll join in, is we both had the pleasure of working with Randy Travis. I think yes. The world knows that Randy had a stroke a few years ago and has been, it's been a struggle throughout. I had the pleasure of talking to his bride and said, hey, listen, I think this could help Randy. And so you and I get to go up to Randy's place, and I remember saying, okay, now be cool. Let's not let's not be the fans that we are. We're professionals. We're going to go up there and meet Randy Travis. I'll let you pick it up from there.
Jeff Crilley, you're an evil man. We went in and we met, and having been around a lot of celebrities, worked with different ones, politicians, I always approached it of, listen, let's not bother them. We're in their home, we're around them, we're in their space. Let's don't ask for autographs, let's don't ask for photographs, things like that. And this is the part of the story you're going to tell, so I'm going to preempt you and get to control the message my own way.
There you go.
We were there, they were the most gracious people you've met. Randy's in the news. He just won a very significant award last night, and congratulations, Randy, and congratulations, Mary. Mary is she is an absolute saint. She's one of the nicest people I've ever met to be in their home. So we're trying to play it cool and everything, and I don't even remember how it came up. We saw their guitar room, and Randy found out I played guitar, and this is controlling the message, Jeff. You're not going to tell this part. So anyway, Randy, when he found out I played, he almost ran over my wife to get into his guitar room, pushing her out of the way to get in there, and he wanted me to play. And he wanted me to play, I'm pretty sure that was the first, if I remember this correctly, first guitar he had owned. Well, I played for him for a brief time.
And yeah, so on the wall are these legendary guitars, and my memory is that it was the one that he used during Forever and Ever Amen and all these early hits in the 80s, and here you are playing it, and then when we get back in the car, I was like, I thought we were going to play it cool.
And I knew that was coming.
Okay, so now you are embarking on a new chapter of your life as a consultant. And I'm going to brag on Mike. Because he's such a nice guy and because he's had so many different experiences throughout life in so many different roles, you truly can talk to the CEO and you can talk to the maintenance guy, and you do it effortlessly. And if a company is watching this right now and they feel like they need somebody to come in, Mike's the guy you want, because in order to navigate an organization, you have to have not book smarts, but street smarts, and be able to read people. So I hope I didn't embarrass you with that, but tell us about what your new company and what you're hoping to achieve.
Well, no, you didn't embarrass me, but it's always a pleasure, Jeff. But so the experience I gained was back at the airlines. I was a senior manager of fleet training for several years for 747, 787, 777. I worked on projects for the CEO, connecting leaders, developing leadership. So I even got asked a few times to consult by people who'd observed this training over the years. What I do is I can help you with your personal growth, your team growth. I had a large team at the airline. I interviewed and hired a lot of people. I probably interviewed over 300 people. And I got really good at that. And I can help you build your team, motivate your team. I can help you find out why your team is not performing as well as it may be, or I can help you perform your best also. And that's where the website came from, thegrowthfacilitator.com. That was, a couple of people called me that, and it kind of stuck.
Well, what I'll say, because I was in TV news for 25 years, and over the course of 25 years, there were several consultants that would come in, and some had good manners, and some felt like they were coming in and changing everything. And I always admired those consultants that would come in and really understand how things were working or not working, and then gently all guide us to a new way of thinking or doing. What is your philosophy about working with companies?
Well, when I work with a company, the first thing I like to do is get to know a couple of the principals. I like to find out from them what they perceive the challenges to be in their company. And I kind of come up with what I think are the solutions, but I never walk into a group or a team and tell them, this is what you're doing wrong. That would be, to me, that would be very arrogant thing to do, and it wouldn't be perceived well by the teams. So I always facilitate these discussions with these teams and get the teams to tell me. As a matter of fact, I use these giant Post-it notes and I write down their words so we can refer to their words later and say, but you said here, I didn't say this, you said this. And it seems to go over really well. I've been very successful at it. I founded this company, Human Cornerstone Facilitations, in 2008. Because of a need. I got asked at the end of every training when someone was observing if I consulted.
Well, you compare yourself to Forrest Gump. I'm going to compare you to another hero of mine, Ted Lasso. I don't know if you watched that series, but he just has a knack for going in and changing an organization.
Oh,
and so,
thank you.
I think you're amazing. We've only got about a minute left, so look into the camera and tell people your thoughts on how does somebody know when they need a guy like you?
You know that you need help if you find yourself walking around all day long feeling like you're out of time, feeling stress, feeling like you're torn, you can't seem to get everything on your list done, and lists, by the way, are a bad thing. I can work with you on that. If you take that home, you feel that stress at home, and you're worried about what you're going to find the next day when you go back to work, if you find yourself answering in emails and texts about work at night and on the weekends, if you feel like that your team worries, that you worry about your team, whether they feel like you've given them your best, if you find yourself feeling any one, some, or all of those things, like we've all done, I felt it too, then I can help with that.
Wow. Mike Hatten, the Growth Facilitator. We're going to end with your website. Thegrowthfacilitator.com is the website. Mike Hatten, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Jeff.
You bet.